Four straight defeats, Norwich City in the bottom three of the Championship. Can't go on like this, can it? Insert a Mick McCarthy meme here. Welcome to Pride Park. Last time I was here, Norwich City had won 3-2. It was about as purple as the Johannes Hoff-Torp patch got during his spell. Borja Sainz has scored a hat-trick. All felt well in the world. It was a Norwich City team that looked like it was on its way up. This Norwich City team feels like a team that is on its way down. As I said, to recap, fourth successive defeat, fifth defeat in 6 matches. Only that point away at Stoke, which, if we're being brutally honest, Norwich City were very fortunate to get. That's their only point in the last 6 outings. It is, just remarkable for a club that spoke so openly and so ambitiously about trying to get in the top 6. They find themselves in the bottom 3. And actually, when we boil it down, I've said this a few times, they're fortunate to have 8 points on the board. Look, tonight wasn't one of those nights where Norwich didn't perform, where it was flat. Maybe second half more so, and we'll come on to that. But I think for me, the crux of tonight comes down to this. There's a saying in football, isn't there, that good teams manage to win games when they're not at their best, when they're not playing especially well or aren't as fluid. I think the reverse of that is also true. Bad teams find ways to lose games, and that is exactly what Norwich City have done here this evening. Because in the first half, they were the dominant side. Derby, I thought, looked really poor, but they were still unable to convert that into a goal-scoring opportunity, a moment of magic to put themselves in the lead. Derby were booed off at half-time. There was significant pressure coming on them from an away perspective. Norwich City had them exactly where they wanted. North of 70% possession at one stage. There was over 28 box entries in that first half at one point, which is far more than Norwich have achieved at any other stage in this season. Liam Gibbs saw a brilliant chance saved by Zetterstrom. Oscar Schwartau hit the side netting. Jack Stacey whisked a shot just wide of the far post. Josh Sargent was engaged, was involved, had sighters of the ball, and it felt good. It looked good, and it was improved. Norwich City in possession had a better shape. Kenny McLean went to kind of left back, but it was a bit more of the hybrid formation that we saw at the start of the season. They built up with a free. Topic would kind of move to the right, and that became a diamond in midfield. And it just opened up space for them to feed balls directly into that final line. Get Josh Sargent engaged in the game, involved in the game, turning and running at defenders. And they did that time and time again. And even territorially, I mean, where I'm stood here now, Norwich's centre-backs were all north of the half. The game was being played there. The only chance that Derby created, really, was a cutback that Brereton Diaz saw blocked. So, yeah, look, a few games ago I said there's something that doesn't smell right at Norwich City, and I think you can see now, not only does it smell right, it doesn't feel right, it doesn't look right, and it looks exactly what it is, a regression. And I'm sorry, the kind of reasons that you hear in terms of injuries being a contributing factor, I just don't see that, as I said in the team news. I think if the performances were up here when the injuries occurred and now they're down here, I would be a little bit more sympathetic. But actually, they have been down here pretty constantly this season. And that first half is really a rarity. We've just not seen that often enough. And of course, at half-time, what do you expect Derby to do? You expect them to match up Norwich City, be more intense, more aggressive, and that's all they did. Applied a little bit of pressure. And this Norwich City team, as they've done all season, had one hand on their shoulder and fell to the floor. They could see the goal. They got given a huge warning sign before that when Carlton Morris was denied by an excellent save by Vladan Kovacevic, whose hard work this season, quite frankly, is kept Norwich City or given Norwich City as many points as they have at the moment, and they're fortunate to have that much. And then seconds later, Adjaman just wriggles away from Stacey, and Matson pulls the ball back to Ozo. One touch curls the ball into the top corner. Soft, nice, a horrendous goal to concede. And you could see it, you could feel it. As soon as that goal went in, heads dropped. There was a real lack of urgency. And beyond Antti Sienat hitting the post, which, I'm really not sure how it didn't go into the back of the net. Norwich really struggled to create anything. It was crosses, it was big diags that Matt Clark headed out of the box. And Derby were pretty comfortable, all told. Zetterstrom didn't really have a huge amount to do in that Derby goal. And Norwich City, again, have come away from this game deservedly, on the basis of that second half, deservedly beat. I think Liam Manning will make the case, and I'm sure Norwich fans can make the case as well, that they probably deserved at least a point based on that first half. But it goes back to the crux of what I said at the beginning. good teams win games when they don't play well. Bad teams lose games, and that's what Norwich City have done in the last two, where really there's been very little in the game, and at points of the game they've edged. And like I said, it's that kind of illusion that Norwich City play on you, where for half an hour, 60 minutes, you think, oh, okay, this is going all right. They're in the game, they're moving the ball nicely, and they didn't create a huge amount in the first half, but there was enough opportunities there to get themselves into the lead. Bang, bang, goal, and the whole sort of house of cards seems to fall over. So yeah, look, fourth successive defeat, fifth defeat in 6 games. It's just bad, isn't it? It's really, really bad. And as I said, I spoke to Kenny McLean after the game, who did his, it's been a while actually since Kenny did one of those. It's sent out to speak, and he's right. Fans don't want to hear words; they want to see action. That away end in the corner, 1,300 Norwich City fans who have given up their Tuesdays, most likely in some cases their Wednesdays as well. I'm sure there'll be some who are in work in the morning and have been really let down, and they made their feelings clear at Liam Manning, at that group of players. And also where Norwich City find themselves in, the slump that they are in. It's, I think, 14 points from 21 games. Forget relegation form. That's if you can drop even lower than relegation form, that is what it is. It was since January, February time, the way the wheels have come off this football club is remarkable. And, I'm just a little bit perplexed as to why there is not more urgency to try and change or to try and do something, because at the moment, like I said on Saturday, it doesn't even really feel like Norwich is sleepwalking into League One. You watch this team play, as I have done for all 11 times this season, and they look like a team that deserve to be in the bottom 3, that deserve to be where they are. And look, I think you can kid yourself in terms of, well, there's injuries, and maybe if Mateus Christgården comes back, fine, he's not going to touch the ball in this team. We've seen that over a big sample size. If Ben Krasene comes back, or Kenny McLean played there tonight and looked better probably at left back than anyone has this season. Shane Duffy might come back. Well, that was a player that was in the bomb squad in the summer that they were happy to let out the door. Mankwa Forson might come back. Again, didn't play a lot of football last season. I just think this idea that all these players are going to come back and Norwich are going to ignite. Look, maybe that will happen. Maybe I'll be proven wrong. I just at the moment feel that's for the birds. As I said, it's not like the performances have got better. It's not like the results have got better. And they are in the mire, and Liam Manning actually spoke, listening to him speak to Chris Gorham on Saturday, he kind of laughed off the idea of a relegation battle. He wasn't laughing tonight. That feels very, very real. That feels like where this football club is in. And my problem is, do I see enough players out there with the character, with the personality, with the want, the will to go to these places in the Championship on a Tuesday night to grind out points, to get enough points on the board? I'm going to be really honest, I don't. And the reality is, I think you look at where this football club finds itself at this moment in time, and it isn't just this year in the making. It's 4 or 5 years of bad decisions, bad appointments, bad recruitment, and it has all come home to roost tonight, and not just tonight, but so far this season. And the flip-flopping of strategies, the inability to recruit, that want probably to turn it into a production factory more than to get results. All of that has culminated in this sorry state that we are seeing on the pitch, because yes, it's about those players and it's about what they don't do and what they can't do, but equally, as I said, it's about those who sit higher up the football club, who have just time and time again just slowly eroded every facet of kind of what we've seen in terms of playing talent, in terms of squad building, coaching, and that has got us where we are tonight. And let's have it right. Norwich City are in a dogfight, and the issue is when you watch this team play, I don't see enough of those players that are willing to stare that in the face and to roll their sleeves up and get stuck in. There will be teams in around them where this is their bread and butter. This is what they do. They fight and they put points on the board. And look, if Norwich aren't going to change it, and look, I've said a few times, I don't necessarily think constantly changing managers is the right way to go about it. I really like Liam Manning. I think he's a good coach. That will mean very little to those Norwich City fans who have watched their team this season fail to perform, fail to pick up results, fail to show, on the whole, not necessarily tonight, a really coherent and consistent style of play. And I think it's almost, look, and I'm not by any means standing here and saying he should go. I think that's up to supporters ultimately to make that call. But I think from a fan perspective, I can understand why that argument is being made in terms of the football decisions and the way this football team is set up. Because, again, not necessarily tonight. I thought there was some in possession stuff tonight that was pretty good. That, if Norwich didn't have a run of 5 defeats in 6 behind them, we could probably cling on to and look at in more detail. But again, we're talking about a first half where they had a lot of territory, but probably failed to convert that clearly into enough opportunities, and they didn't have that ruthless edge, because it cannot just be Josh Sargent. It cannot be. And there's softness to this group. And as I said, when they go 1-0 down, that mentality, that willingness to fight, all of it feels, just utterly broken. And it's really sad. It's really sad, because you remember I know how powerful this football club is. When people point it in the right direction, when there's a clear strategy, with a fan base it has, particularly at this level, if you can get this going, Paul Lambert, Alex Neil, Daniel Farker, Nigel Worthington, go back and back and back and all attest for this. This is such a powerful football club. And at the moment, it feels like anything other than that. It feels fractious. It feels disjointed. I think fans feel angry. I'm not even sure it's apathetic. I think they feel angry, and rightly so, because they've watched, as I've said, their football club, the playing talent, get eroded year on year. And again, you come back to the stage that Norwich have got a lot of money out there on that pitch. And Derby, I don't want to be disrespectful to Derby, because they've won the game, and in the second half they made the changes necessary. Quite frankly, it doesn't take a lot for Norwich City to lose games at the moment. But they were really poor in the first half. And if Norwich City are in a position where they cannot seize an opportunity like that, then they're in trouble. I don't know what else to say, really, that is new or fresh or a unique take on this. Like I said, I didn't think tonight in isolation was as bad as they've been. But you just can't keep losing games. There has to be something done about what the situation is. And I think the longer that inaction reigns, the more anger, the more frustration that is going to get pent up. And Norwich go to Swansea on Saturday. Could you see them winning that game? I'm struggling at the moment. And I had a chat about this before the start of the game with our Radio Norfolk colleagues. At the moment, it's really difficult to stand and say that you expect Norwich City to win a game of football, because all you've got really is kind of blind hope, optimism. There's very little to cling on to in terms of what they're doing from a football perspective, the mentality of the group, the character of the group. Yeah, it's not good. But I did want to say a word for Antti Sienats as well, who went off, and that looked a really bad one. Sod's law at the moment where Norwich City are. They're just made. Emi Marcones has just come onto the pitch. That was their third sub window. You get 3 sub windows to use. It was their 4th sub. So essentially, they didn't have any more to make. And it looked, the way he moved and the way he went down, his reaction, he walked off in tears. That looked to me a bad one. I think immediately when that happens, your fear is ACL immediately. Hopefully he gets scanned and that isn't the case, and it's not as severe as that. But yeah, that looked a really bad one. So I wish Antti Sienats well. Like I said, hit the post. No idea how that didn't go in. And then I'm not sure the tone of this would be much different if Norwich got a point instead of none. But there's that. I wish him and hopefully that's a speedy recovery from him. What a mess, eh? What a mess. I'm a bit dumbfounded by it all. I think it's really difficult. You can point fingers in all directions. Supporters are doing that. And ultimately, 45 minutes counts for very little if you're unable to build on it, if you're unable to take results in and to get results in those circumstances. And it's just the way they wilt. Every time there's pressure, every time there's a goal, it feels like, if they're behind, they're done. And you look at their second half form this season, it's pretty woeful, to be honest, and pretty poor. So there's a reason for that. There's a fitness reason that I think you can see. There's a whole host of reasons as to why they are coming out of the traps and looking really poor. Not good. Not good at all. Pinkland.com, the place to go for all your analysis, reaction to this game. We are now face a long journey home, as do those 1,300 Norwich fans. And let's just hope, because that's all we've got at the moment, with very little substance, that Norwich City can produce something away at Southwell. So I will leave you with this, actually, which is back to, I'm going to put this in a positive direction, but the last time that Norwich City lost 5 out of 6 games was under David Wagner in that bleak November where they got beat by Sunderland and Blackburn. They then went to South Wales. They then played Cardiff. They won that game. Off they went. It changed and ignited their season. Norwich City head to South Wales on Saturday. It's straws. I'm clutching. It's all I have. Oh, I wanted to leave you on a light note. So, yeah, hopefully that's something. But this was another defeat. Norwich in the relegation zone, looking up at the Championship table. And I really hope they've got the stomach for this fight that they are in, because believe you me, they are in a real fight. Thank you very much for joining. See you soon.